Rightio, so let's get this Q&A underway. I've got a few questions from Instagram and YouTube, so we'll start with YouTube first. What's the first one, mate?
All right, first question is a 3-part question. How long do you intend to keep the Cruiser for?
I'm going to try and keep it for 5 years. I've already had it for a year. I've done 90,000 kilometers, roughly. Not quite, but almost there. So 5 years, which I'll probably have about 500,000 kilometers on it by then, but that's the plan, to keep it for at least 5 years and probably just drive it into the ground. To be honest, I'll probably keep it beyond that, but that's kind of the goal I've set. And in those 5 years, as you know, I use that vehicle for everything. So, but its main purpose is work. So it's going to be a workhorse for the next 5 years, and we'll see beyond that.
So the second part is, how long do you reckon a V8 Cruiser can last before a major rebuild?
That's an interesting question. So if you talk to some people, they'll tell you you need to get injectors done at 150,000 kilometers and whatnot. Look, maintenance is the biggest thing in my opinion. And I service my vehicle every 5,000 kilometers. I change the fuel filter every 10. That's like the most important thing you can do, as in maintenance. That's like imperative. And I don't believe servicing every 10 is ridiculous. And some of these new cars on the market that are 15, that's ridiculous, and you shouldn't do it. No, I'm not a qualified mechanic, but that's not right. That shouldn't, and that's a whole nother story. But especially if you're operating your vehicle in severe service conditions like I do. So yeah, I service it every 5, which is key to the longevity. Now there's other things like catch cans. That's a whole nother debate. I haven't got one, I don't run one, I'm not gonna run one. I haven't even got a secondary fuel filter. I will put one of them on one day, but for now I don't have one. So I think, keeping it for 5 years and getting roughly 500,000 out of it, I'm expecting 500,000 kilometers out of it before anything major. I've spoken to a pretty renowned diesel mechanic in Australia who says that if the engine's looked after properly and the maintenance is there, you should get about 300,000 to 500,000 out of the injectors. If you go on car sales, there's V8 Cruisers with over 500,000 on the clock on the original engine. So maintenance is imperative, and I'm expecting to get at least 500,000 or beyond before anything major needs doing. But we will see what happens there. And that's kind of a part of what this YouTube channel is with this vehicle. Let's see what we can put it through and what's the actual real longevity of it. And I'm able to look at that and test it over a relatively short amount of years with the amount of work that it does.
All right, the last part to the question. Any idea what your next vehicle would be? In my opinion, there is no alternative to a V8 Cruiser.
Next vehicle, well look, I've had a few full drives. I had 2 Hiluxes prior with the 2.8s prior to this Land Cruiser. They were good rigs. The auto that I had was a 2021 SR5 extra cab, I think. I put about 110,000 on that doing the same work, and I don't think I had any dramas. The only dramas, I had some dramas with ABS wiring or something on the rear diff, getting ripped out from sticks and barbed wire and shit. It's pretty standard. And I had to replace 3 diff carriers from rocks and shit hitting the diff lock actuator that goes into the diff carrier. And once you destroy that, it's a whole new diff carrier. So 3 diff carriers on that. But then that's when I looked into beefing up the diff lock actuator bash plate, and that's what I believe should go on any car first mod if you're going to be using it out bush. But so they were reliable. Look, I would try out a 2.8 Land Cruiser. I know that's probably controversial, but whatever. Let me have a crack at it. Let's see what it can do. So Like, I like Land Cruisers. They've always been my favourite vehicle. Growing up as a kid, that's, they are what I knew, and they're a true workhorse. So I don't know it'd probably just be another Land Cruiser, to be honest.
Alright. Showing station life has been amazing viewing and much appreciated. How did you get into content creation, and what are the hardest things about filming out bush for you?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I got into it back in 2017 or 18. I really wanted to start a channel. That's when I was living on the station, and I was talking about how I think it would work and it would be a great channel, and people would probably be interested to see what life is like out bush on the station, the ups and downs, and I felt like it would be pretty interesting. And also do the four-wheel drive stuff on the side, and do it as a whole package. But I wish I did start back then, but I didn't do it because I just assumed I needed a $5,000 laptop and crazy editing software and thousands of dollars worth of cameras and all that stuff. So I never got into it. And it wasn't until I was watching, everyone probably knows Luke from Drifter, full drive brand. They've got a little YouTube channel, and he did a Canning stock route crossing, might have been maybe the year before last. I think I've been at this for about a year or over a year now. Anyway, I was watching that crossing, and it was all filmed with his iPhone. And it was pretty simple. It was good content, raw, no added shit that you don't need. There was barely any editing, couple of drone shots here and there, just off a phone. And he started talking about how he was just filming it off his phone. And then I just clicked like, wow, I can just use my phone. Like, okay, I didn't really know that to be an option, to be honest. So that's what I did. I started a channel, I whipped my phone out and I just pressed record. That's how it got started. And yeah, I'm continuing along with it. And I think that this is a pretty unique place, Central Australia, and some of the stuff that I do is unique. So I thought that, yeah, like I said earlier, it would be interesting. That there may be some interest out there to see Central Australia and life on a cattle station and whatnot. Also, a massive thing was that there's nobody doing that from here. I always said that if I lived on the East Coast or something, I probably wouldn't do this because there's already a million YouTubers. There's nobody doing this stuff here. There is one or two in the Northern Territory, but they're in the top end and fishing and doing different stuff. So there's literally zero YouTubers here where I am, around Alice Springs, doing this kind of stuff. So you could say that like the full drive YouTube scene is kind of saturated, but if you can find a niche in that scene, which I think I've done, and I'm not a full drive YouTuber. There's the station stuff and a few other things mixed in. I don't do hardcore like full driving. So that's kind of what got me into it.
What are the hardest things about filming out bush for you?
Probably out bush. I think maybe they're referring to the station. If they are, well, yeah, obviously. It's combining, like I'm at my job, I'm working. So that's a bit of a challenge, especially when it's 45 degrees and there's a million flies and you're doing stuff. You're fixing broken fencing. You've got a lot to do, and then you're trying to film at the same time. And then I better stop and put the drone up. And so I'm grateful for what I get to do. I enjoy it and whatever, but if I had to pick something, it's not that hard, but if I had to pick something, that's probably what I'd pick.
If you were to change your tray setup, what would you get or do?
Look, I want to build my own tray. I said this from day dot, back when I still had my second Hilux and I was waiting on this cruiser to come. I thought this cruiser was going to be like another year away. Turns out it rocked up, wham, bam, here we go. I wanted to build a tray. I had to get a genuine Toyota tray, I just didn't have the time and It rocked up way sooner than I thought. I still waited 2 years for the car though. But I'm definitely going to do a tray build, just figuring out how and when to bloody go about it. And then that will be a full custom setup.
Do you get much chance to leave the station to do touring over west or east?
I'm assuming this person means East Australia, West Australia. No. All I want to bloody do is cruise around and do that sort of stuff. Like, I want to do it so bad. Obviously, I get out and I check out Central Australia and the East McDonnell Ranges, West McDonnell Ranges. I get out and about here, but as far as the rest of Australia, not really. We went up to Lorella Springs in 2022 for about a week. That was bloody awesome. But I'm dying to get out more, and yeah, it shits me that I'm not able to do that. So I do want to get out there.
Would you be open to taking people into the station and have them work beside you for a week or so? I would pay for that experience.
Yeah, look, the station is an interesting setup. That could definitely be a possibility. I haven't thought about that too much. Maybe I should, something I could go into depth a bit more about maybe one day. But there's a bit going on there with the station. So I haven't really talked about the station too much, or the setup and how it works and whatever. But I mean, I've kind of had fun toying with the idea of doing tours up here or tag-alongs or something like that, if there would be interest. I mean, I'm only a small fry, I've only got a small channel, and I still don't even know what the bloody hell I'm doing with it. So, I don't know, possibly in the future could be something.
All right, so last question from YouTube. iTech gear, and how long does it take to charge the battery via solar in the real world?
Well, I suppose, yeah, real world conditions. It depends, I guess. I've got a 200 watt solar blanket, which puts in 10 amps or something, which is great. Like, when we went to Lorella Springs, I had a 100 amp hour battery set up, running lights, fridge, whatever. When we were just parked up at camp, I had the solar blanket out, and it'd just keep the battery at 100%. Like that, easy. Now, we didn't have big draw on the system. We didn't have, inverters running stuff or anything like that, but no dramas at all. And yeah, I mean, it depends what solar you're running to, what are the panels made out of, because if they're cheap and nasty, they will provide a lower charge than perhaps what's claimed. Also, it depends on the conditions. Like if it's cloudy, some panels, if they get partially covered, will stop working, others won't. But my 200 watter is a Ridge Rider blanket from Supercheap, and I mean, you stick it out in the sun, it puts 10 amps into the system. It does well.
All right, so on to Instagram questions. Did the silicon keep the ants out in the end?
That's from Big Shano. Yeah, Bruss at work day. That was worked a treat. I don't know what the ants. He's referring to. Might have been the latest episode I put up, or the one before the latest, the snake in my toilet episode. Little electronic 101 box that controls the solar and whatever on the bores. The ants keep getting into it and fucking it. So I don't know what they go in there for, but the copper or something. Anyway, so I had to replace it and silicon sealed it, and put a bunch of ant poison on the ground, which has seemed to work.
Big Badoo or Little Badoo?
Big Badoo. Next one.
Would the Sloth brackets Hilux make the cut as a station rig?
That's Big Jaden. Yeah, it would.
Well, it did.
Shit all over the bloody Land Cruiser.
What is your daily skincare routine?
I rub cow shit into my face. That's what you got to do to stay young.
Which station do you work around? No.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. A lot of people ask that. Hey, where you at? And it's like an innocent question, but I don't tell you probably notice I never really talk about it. I don't like put the name out there everywhere and tell everyone where it is. I mean, just, I don't know, just like if I worked at Coles, I wouldn't tell everyone what Coles I worked at, just because, yeah. It's fair enough, and probably could tell people, but it's just not something I've ever thought of doing, so. But yeah, it's in Central Australia around Alice Springs.
What will your next vehicle be if it can't be a V8 Cruiser?
I kind of covered that before, but and I guess that goes into, now that these Land Cruisers are kind of going to become scarce. I mean, there's so many out there, but I do kind of want to try and keep this vehicle forever. And also for tax purposes, it's going to suit me to probably keep it forever and never sell it, drive it into the ground. So it'd be good to, once the engine shits itself, maybe even rebuild it or put a new one in there. But, I mean, I'd go a Hilux again. They're bloody good. They're reliable. People can say what they want about them. DPF dramas, this and that. But, I mean, I've had two, never had a problem. My brother had one for a few years, never had a drama. I worked mine pretty hard, and they're good, solid rigs. I would try an Ineos Grenadier. I actually put my name down for one as an interest thing when they were first being talked about, when they were first talking about releasing the Ute, actually. But then when I saw the prices, I wasn't too sure, and it wasn't a proven platform yet and whatever. And the Land Cruisers are bloody expensive anyway. So I would try an Ineos. There you go, there's my answer.
What do you like about working on the station the most?
The freedom and kind of being my own boss, because, you know, it's my old man's show, and I'm hoping to get the lease in the near future when he's out of there. And I'm hopefully going to be moving out there, permanent move soon, which will be a bit of a change to the channel, because it'll be full-time content from the station. I'll still try and get away to do other things, bits and pieces, camping and whatever, but so that's going to be interesting. But I would say the freedom and the autonomy, getting to work solo and running around, managing the day-to-day happenings on the station. And it's an interesting, demanding job at times, where you have to use your initiative to figure out problems, and you're looking after, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 head of cattle. It's a huge asset that you're responsible for. And you're always learning day to day. So it's great. Definitely has its challenges. When it's raining, it's green grass, the cattle are happy, it's cool, there's water everywhere, there's not much to do. But then it's summer and it's 45, and if you hit a drought, all hell breaks loose, and you've got trouble with watering points, you can't keep up water, and you've got hundreds of camels running around sometimes that you have to deal with. It's can be stressful, but for the most part, it's great. And yeah, as I said, just that freedom, I suppose, using your hands, getting out and about, being in nature, driving around in your dream car, got your own tools, your own setup, and you're not stuck in a city or, you know, with millions of people around you, or stuck in an office or anything like that. Is that it?
I threw that last question in.
You bitch! Did you?
Yeah, I was going to do another sneaky one, and then I was like, no, I won't.
Is that all the questions?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Well, anyway, that's about it for the Q&A. But that's interesting. Good questions. Thanks very much for all the questions. And yeah, I thought been at this for over a year. I thought it was a good time to chuck a Q&A in the mix, just because I do get a lot of questions in the comments on YouTube, but also on Instagram. Lots of people message me that way. Anyway, so that's it. I'll leave you to it. Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.